Yeah.
What's good, everyone?
What's poppin', everybody? These are just some regular dudes talking sports. I'm Matt,
I'm Joe.
and we hope y'all having a good day. Thanks for being with us. Bear with us. First podcast covering the NFL. Gonna do a little preseason preview. Got some division stuff to go over with you guys. I'll hit a little bit on each of these teams. I'm just gonna work a little differently week by week. We'll do more bits, more focus on matchups and games and results and whatnot. Try to get you right now a video every week. We'll see what happens with that. We might do more, might do less. But regardless, sit back, relax on the couch. We're on the couch. We're just going to be talking sports. We do this all the time. I'm sure you guys do it all the time. We're just regular dudes. We love football. That is pretty much the point. We love sports in general. Don't got to get into all that right now. Let's jump right into it. Start off with the NFC East. We got some predictions you'll see here on the screen. Cowboys, Eagles, we both got at 10-6. We got a flop in terms of who wins the division.
This is a tough one for me as a Giants fan, but, you know, we're on the come up.
That is true. We should have started with that. He's a Giants fan. I am an Oakland Raiders fan. Don't laugh. We're about to be nice this year. But looking at this right here, let's talk about the Giants a little bit, because we don't need to talk about the Eagles and Cowboys. They're going to be on the cusp for making the playoffs. One of them obviously will. Giants, you have them at 9-7. Vegas has them at 6. What say you, regular dude? Why the Giants winning 9 games?
I don't think they have that tough of a schedule. I mean, yeah, sure, they play the Patriots, and they play everyone in their division. I think the Redskins are a pretty weak team. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is it Case Keenum? Is it Dwayne Haskins? How's Haskins going to adapt to the NFL? He's a little slow. He's not mobile in the pocket. Their offensive line is always hurt. So, I mean, I can chalk that up for 2 wins to the Giants. I think our defense is on the come up. We got a lot of nice young talent. You know, they need to be coached, but, you know, the potential's all there. It all depends on how our offense plays, you know, and improve the offensive line. Again, we play the AFC East this year, and, you know, I don't think the Jets, Dolphins, or Bills are going to be that good.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
And we play the NFC North, and outside of the Packers and Bears, I'm not really afraid of Minnesota this year.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of
Is that
Detroit
Minnesota
at all.
game at home or away?
Minnesota is at home.
Okay, that's
but it's
big.
Shermer's first game against his former team.
So let's dive in. You dive into the schedule a little bit, and I agree with you there. It's not that difficult of a schedule, which works in the Giants' favor here. But let's talk about the team for a second. You got skill players. You got Saquon. Ingram at tight end is one of the better tight ends in the league.
He's a massive problem.
Your wide receiver core is looking good, especially when Tate comes back. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily flashy as Odell once was, but we're not going to make you reminisce right now.
Yeah, got nothing but love for Odell, though.
But really what we're missing here, the offensive line you hit on improved. What's going on with the quarterback situation here? Obviously, Eli's a starter. Let's hit on Daniel Jones a little bit. He looked all right in the preseason.
You know, he was good, but I keep making this point as everyone's trying to overhype him. Even Shermer said, you know, the critics should apologize for their comments because he kind of proved himself against second and third team defenses. You know, these are guys.
Let me tell you something.
They're trying to make a team. Man.
The critics will never apologize for anything.
No, they're just trying to get a story.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, at this point, so are we. Talk about the Redskins a little bit. Let's jump to them. 6 wins for Vegas. You have them down at a mere 1. Who are they beating?
Oh, I got to look at this now.
I mean, should Washington fans, if they're listening, feel disrespected?
They might be. I think I have them beating. Oh, give me a second here.
So Washington's defense is always solid, right? They just got Landon Collins. They made some subtle improvements. Obviously, the quarterback issue that you alluded to is where they're going to have their biggest trouble on offense. Other than that, wide receiver, they feel like I can't even name.
They got rid of Jameson Crowder.
Right.
I think they have Dotson, and that's it.
No, they just released Dotson to the Vikings.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, all I know is Trey Quinn in the slot because Trey Quinn is friends with my good friend S.J. Tui. They went to SMU together.
I mean, they have Vernon Davis and
you know what they have?
Jordan Reed.
Paul Richardson.
Yes, you're right.
Right. Guy
But
from
Jordan
Seahawks
Davis,
days.
I mean, not Jordan Davis, Vernon
Jordan
Davis
Reed,
and Jordan
right.
Reed.
Nice little mismatch there.
Vernon Davis, you got to throw back the years on him.
I know, yeah.
But, you know, Jordan Reed, there's a lot of hype going around him. He's always one of those top guys. You know, he's super athletic. It's just, can he stay healthy?
And almost the answer to that is always every time.
No, but he has a concussion right now, but I think he'll be 100% going into the season in week 1 this weekend. But if he can stay healthy, he's a good option.
But no other options, really.
Keenum has to learn a whole new offense.
Right.
Jay Gruden's, he's not a quarterback whisperer.
Okay.
You know?
That's fair.
And then
Just not high on them.
Redskins fans they're going to want Haskins. Can he handle the pressure?
Right.
They have to go to the Eagles, who, again, always have a solid team. They always dominate our division.
Cowboys, the whole division, yeah.
Yeah, the Cowboys are very good at home. Their defense just gets nastier and nastier.
This is one of the tougher divisions for sure in the entire league. Would you say it's the toughest?
NFC East, AFC West.
Okay.
Maybe the AFC South this year.
I don't know if the AFC South is the toughest. Maybe it might be the toughest to predict. We'll get to that in a little bit, though. But, yeah, Redskins down at 1 win for Joe here. Definitely take the under on the Skins. We'll also get into that, according to Vegas. Hop over to the AFC East that you brought up a little bit. You thought they'd be weak. We're both around the same on the Jets. I'm a little higher on the Bills, but both of us are under for both those teams. Dolphins, we can throw them out. The Patriots are at 11 for Vegas. I have them at 11 wins. I might take the over. You have them at 15. I know you love Tom Brady. I know he's the GOAT. Other than saying Tom Brady's name, give us a reason why they're not going to, go undefeated.
They've dominated that division for, almost 20 years, besides a few years when the Jets went to back-to-back AFC Championship games.
Mark Sanchez, baby.
Yeah, butt fumble Sanchez, baby.
Exactly.
It's hard to go to Foxborough, especially in the cold weather.
Right.
Belichick in his short-sleeved sweatshirts in the middle of December. He's such a great coach that he'll plan around it. And, I think he won the Super Bowl not because it was a good offensive game or a good defensive game, because he outcoached Sean McVay.
For sure. I could agree with that. I think Sean McVay was caught in the lights a little bit there. But 15 wins, that's up there.
I mean, they play a lot of tough games at home. I think they play the Eagles and the Cowboys at home, or the Eagles and the Giants at home, and have to go to the Cowboys, or they only have to go to one of the tougher away teams in the NFC East.
Right.
I don't see the Jets being that much better. I think they're building towards something really good. The Bills are always tough to beat in Buffalo, but on the road you don't really know. Their offensive line is a little shaky.
Year 2, Josh Allen, Coach McDermott, how is his offense going to look?
They don't really have any veterans on that offense.
Frank Gore, that's the only one I could think of.
Frank Gore, but he's going to play. It's going to be Singletary.
Right. So, no, I agree with that.
And
I just don't know.
Too.
I just don't know about 15 wins. Might be a little ambitious, but definitely take the over on them.
Yeah, I would take the over.
Take the over. They're obviously going to win the division. That's all we really have to say about that. We're going to move on to the NFC West now. Look at some of these teams here. The Seahawks at 8.5. Both have the over. You're a little higher on them than I am. You have them at 11 wins. Obviously, the Rams are winning this division for both of us. Tell me why the Seahawks are going to be for sure a wild card team in the NFC.
So Frank Clark last year was playing for a bigger contract, and obviously we know the whole the situation with him, how he got traded away, and they just brought in Jadeveon Clowney, who's a game changer. He's an all-pro.
Right, naturally, a great trade.
Maybe he starts this new Legion of Boom kind of thing. And,
okay.
They really control the running game, which means they control the clock, which means they control the game.
Right.
Wilson's a smart guy. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He'll pull the ball down and run out of bounds and not take big hits. Their offensive line is great. Obviously, number 1 rushing attack in the NFL last year.
Right.
I was big on Tyler Lockett last year.
Oh, we know. For those of you who don't know, Joe had Tyler Lockett on his fantasy team last year and tried to trade him to literally everybody.
And still ended up winning the fantasy league, so.
That is true. He has to throw that in my face here as I mentioned that. Just thinking about the Seahawks for a little bit further here. Their front 7 on defense is obviously great. They're, I guess at this point, front 8, if you want to include Russ and their running backs. Maybe even front 9 on offense is great with their rushing, and Russ is going to be a good quarterback. I think the problem here we're looking at, can the secondary match up to that Legion of Boom that they once had? And other than Lockett, where their wide receiver is going to be, is DK Metcalf going to be awesome? He's been a little injured in preseason. A lot of people are expecting a down year for Russ in the air. Maybe not necessarily equating to the Seahawks having a bad year or anything, but what do you think about those two parts of the Seahawks team? Will that hurt them and ultimately be their demise?
So I think before the draft, I had said, it was looking like Russell Wilson, who's married to Ciara, and they love New York. I was hoping Maybe
Right,
he goes
the
into this
trade,
last year
yeah.
and the Giants sign him in free agency next year, but he signed this monster deal.
Right.
So I think the way he is, the way he prepares, he's a freak athlete, man. I think he'll, no matter who his receivers are, will take them
He'll find a way.
to the playoffs.
Fair analysis right
Even
there.
with Doug Baldwin gone.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a big loss, of course, but he was gone last year.
Will Disley's also back.
Right.
He was out a lot last year.
All right, so I agree with that. I mean, I have him at 9-7, cusp of a wild card team. You have him in there. We'll get to the playoffs in a little bit. Let's talk about the 49ers for a second. You're super low on them, and I'm not necessarily high on them or anything, but 4-game difference is, normally we are more on the same page here. Vegas has them at 8. I'm still taking the under. I just think tough division, tough schedule. But having Jimmy G back for a full year, hopefully, knock on wood, if you're with me for those who watch Hard Knock. Having Jimmy G back, really good offensive line. Last year, Jeff Wilson Jr. and some other guy that were just thrown in there were all of a sudden fantasy football.
Matt Breida. Yeah, it was Matt Breida.
Matt Breida was good too, and he'll be there. He'll get some good run with Tevin Coleman. Obviously, the McKinnon news is unfortunate for him as a person and just can't seem to catch a break.
Or an ACL.
Or an ACL, that's a good point. But 49ers on offense at least should be a formidable team. Hopefully Jimmy G can make something out of this team. I just don't see them, being to the point where I think Jimmy G and that offense will win them some games for the first time in a couple of years. The 49ers will have that as a part of their team. You have them at 3 wins. Is there any specific reason you saw that?
The ACL injury is tough, man, because you don't know if it's career-ending or not. You don't know how he'll move and step up in the pocket. He's got some really great deep threats in Dante Pettis and Marquise Goodwin.
Don't forget about Deebo Samuel, too. Good
Deebo Samuel, South Carolina. It's going to be, interesting to see, but they do have a tough division. The Rams should run through that division.
For sure, and I mean the Seahawks too. I don't see them getting. Maybe they sweep the Cardinals and can go 3-3 in the division if they steal a game. But other than that, I mean, you have them at 3 wins total. That's all. Only reason I was asking.
Yeah, it's a little tough to predict. Their schedule isn't favorable towards them, and they're in a tough division. I see it as a 2-horse race. I mean, they're building towards something, but I don't think their defense is that great.
Okay. So take the under on the 49ers out there. Cardinals, we love Kyler Murray. Would love to talk about him, but we just don't have the time. And neither did he in the preseason to throw. So we're going to move on to the AFC West before I mention the Raiders. We'll start with the Chiefs, top of the division. Both of us have them at the top. Again, another team you have is 15-1. Patriots, I was a little more hesitant on this. I might let you go a little easier. This is more believable in my book, at least. Tell me why you have the Patriots at 15 while Vegas has them at 10.5.
Well, I have the Chiefs at 15-1.
Yeah.
You said Patriots.
Well, you did have the Patriots at 15. The Chiefs at 15 as well is my point.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes comes back and, puts ketchup all over the defense.
So he puts ketchup. Interesting. That's
he loves his ketchup.
He loves his ketchup. He does. That's true.
No,
so you think he repeats his year from last year?
I don't know if 50 touchdowns is going to repeat it.
That's fair.
I don't see any reason why they can't repeat what they did on offense last year.
Right.
With Sammy Watkins getting healthy, they only got better on defense with the acquisitions of, Tyrann Mathieu, Frank Clark. So I think they'll just get the ball more, and they'll have more of a chance to score. You don't really know how the Raiders are going to be. They can just take 2 wins from that. The Chargers, they lost Derwin James for, I don't even know if it's a full year.
3 months. He should be back by the end of the year.
But
potentially.
Is that too late for them?
And how is he going to look?
I don't think the Broncos are going to be good at all. That could be 6 wins. They could sweep the division there. 5 wins I'm looking at the minimum. And then I just don't think anyone could really challenge them besides the Patriots until the playoffs.
Right, okay. So you think they just run away with it this year. Super Bowl pick for you and I, actually. Not as high on them as you are, but let's move on to the Chargers and the Raiders. Not really a big difference that we have. I could see both of them actually at 9-7. Might have to tweak that. You have them about 8-8. They both could be in there at least vying for a wild card spot. Is there anything you want to speak to other than the fact that the Broncos should definitely be taking that under?
The Chargers are just, and I'll let you speak to the Raiders, from your
That's
fan
fair.
perspective.
I appreciate that.
But the Chargers, you don't know. They lost their best defensive player from a year ago.
Right.
They got rid of Tyrell Williams. He's now on the Raiders.
Good pick up by the Raiders.
They have Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Hunter Henry's back, and I'm pretty high on him, but I'm not really sure, how he's going to do coming off another torn ACL.
Right.
The typical injury coming back this year. The defense, Derwin James was an absolute monster and led that team last year.
But one player doesn't make up a whole defense, right? So their defense was pretty good, if I remember correctly.
But he was their playmaker.
He was. He's definitely a difference maker.
And what about Melvin Gordon?
Right.
He's going to show up. He's going to get traded. Well, they're not going to talk about a contract extension until next year.
Right. And we'll get to Melvin Gordon a little bit later. I mean, I agree. I think the Chargers are going to be a little bit suspect this year. Oakland Raiders, thanks for letting me chime in here about these guys. These guys are going to make the world go crazy. John Gruden, Chucky, Antonio Brown, Derek Carr. Don't forget about my guy Josh Jacobs, all right? It's pretty much everyone I've got on my fantasy team. These guys have the toughest schedule if you look at any site. Across the board, consensus toughest schedule. I'm not just me saying that as a fan. But for some reason, year two, they're gonna shake it up. They're gonna make some plays. Derek Carr in the year two of Jack Del Rio's offense was that 2016 year where the Raiders were 12-4 and made the playoffs. 12-3 when Derek Carr got hurt. Could have had a monster year. Could have made monster moves in the playoffs. Things could have been a lot different, obviously. No need to throw the ball when you're up 30 in the third quarter to make Derek Carr hurt there. But when you look at that team versus this team, I see a lot better defense, and I see improved playmakers. The offensive line is the only questionable difference, but it's not too different. So if the offensive line can give Carr time to get these playmakers the ball, I could see the Raiders having a similar type year. Obviously, having them at 9-7 is a little different than a 12-3, could have been a 13-3 type of year, but with the schedule they have, I could see them at least surprising some people, maybe even making a wild card slot, maybe just missing it, but definitely more than 6 games in both of our opinions.
I mean, my thing with that is you guys are predicting a massive jump from last year. And I know I totally agree with the second year under Gruden,
right.
But they didn't hire him on a 10-year contract, to be good right away. I think the third year they make another jump. They have another 2 first-round picks next year.
That's true.
I think they just have a young defense. They don't really have any crazy leaders. They got Clelin Ferrell at 4. A lot of people are going to put a lot of pressure on him because they thought they could have gotten him later in the round. I love Josh Jacobs. Who was your safety? Abrams?
Jonathan Abrams is
awesome. I do like Abrams, but again,
that dude is a nuthead.
Young core. It's going to take a year for them to get settled together.
Got some older guys in there too. Vontaze Burfict, I'm a big fan of that pickup. Yeah. Him and Gunther, I think they live together. That's how much they love each other. The only thing about big jumps is from the year before they took that leap to the playoffs, they won 6 games. Last year, obviously not a good year, but I think it is doable. It depends on how things go with our defense. In my opinion, I think they could be a big difference maker here. But let's not spend too much time on it. Let's jump to the NFC North, as we still have half these divisions to go. Vikings, we have 7-9. I have 8-8. Lions, kind of a throwaway year. Our really differences come in the Bears and the Packers specifically. The Bears, we're not going to hit on that much. We both agree are going to win this division. Vegas has them at 9. We say take the over. Me, not by much, but they're definitely going to be up there. The Packers are the interesting one here. I have them at 8-8. You have them at 13-3. Vegas has them at 9. Joe, what say you about the Green Bay Packers this year?
I know they have the new coach in LaFleur, but they made a couple really great signings this year. They got Adrian Amos from the Bears, who was huge in that monster secondary last year. They picked up Preston Smith and Ladarius Smith, and both can rush the passer. Drafted Rashawn Gary, and just made a trade for B.J. Goodson on the Giants. And he would have been our starting middle linebacker if we didn't make a trade for Ogletree. So that they have a good group of young guys mixed in with some, veterans that have been proven in this league. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if he's the best of all time. I firmly think it's Brady, but
I'm
a lot
going
of
no.
people,
I'm just gonna shut you down
say
on
he's
that
the best quarterback of all time.
Well, I don't know who those a lot of people are. I'm shutting you down on this right now. We both agree it's Brady. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me is they didn't really bolster his offense, but I love what they did with Aaron Jones last year. It all depends if LaFleur can make it click, and if it does, I don't see them losing too many games.
Yeah, Aaron Jones is an interesting one. It seemed like every time he ran the ball, he would get a lot of yards and then just come out of the game. It's almost like they didn't want to make him the featured back last year for no reason. He had a yards per carry, I think, around 5.8, which is absolutely absurd. We'll have the correct stat come up on the screen here. I mean, he's going to be a factor if LaFleur can get it right. We'll see what their offense really looks like.
That's really been my concern for them, though. I mean, the same thing we kind of talk about with the Raiders. A younger core mixed in with some veteran guys. First year trying to make that click. And then the offense, I mean, I always believe that first year coaches always have some first year growing pains. So while maybe 8-8 might be a little low, that's why I believe 13-3 might be a little high. 9 is where Vegas has them. They should be around there. That's a tougher one. I don't want to tell you what to do.
I don't know. I don't know. I think their offensive line just got healthy again. You don't know. I don't know how LaFleur's going to run their offense.
Right.
But maybe
we have to see how the offense.
Jimmy Graham back involved.
Yeah.
Jimmy
Graham's
Valdez Scantling and
disappeared,
Geronimo Allison are back.
Right.
Devontae Adams is matchup proof. He's going to get 10 to 15 targets a game.
Listen, what we talked about before the show, if anyone can do it, Aaron Rodgers could do it, right?
Of course.
Just got to make sure that connection clicks. We're
And
gonna
he
move
stays
on here.
healthy.
Right. Knock on wood again, because that is a real thing. Move on to the AFC North real quick. This is an interesting division, similar to the NFC North in terms of Vegas predictions. A lot of the people around Vegas have these teams at around 9 wins, and then the Bengals kind of like the Lions. But let's talk about the Browns to start off. You, again, another 13-3 team. It seems like everybody's buying in on these Browns. Tell us why.
Well, they made a really early acquisition in signing Sheldon Richardson. They finally, this will be Freddie Kitchen's first year, they got a pass rusher opposite of Myles Garrett. So they can't just double him. Olivier Vernon, he had his injury struggles with the Giants, but he was a monster in our playoff year.
And a lot of people are picking Myles Garrett as a defensive player of the year kind of sleeper. So that could be big for them.
I mean, they were a nasty defense under Greg Williams last year, but with him gone, they didn't really lose any of their core guys.
Right.
And when Kitchens took over, their defense, didn't drop off.
Right.
And they got nasty, and I think Baker makes a big jump in the second year. And then Kareem Hunt comes back after 8 weeks.
Kareem Hunt is an interesting storyline in the NFL, obviously. We thought he might switch positions to kicker, but coming back as a running back, we're going to see how that all shakes out. We'll talk about that in a little bit, too, when we get to news or noise. Quick words on the Steelers and Ravens. Let's not dwell on them too much. We both have them right around the cusp. 9 wins for Vegas, 8.5. 9 for the Steelers, 8.5 for the Ravens. We both have the Ravens at 8, and Steelers above 9. Might be a little bit of difference there. There's a lot of that due to that we don't know what's going to go on with the Ravens offense, and the Steelers are the Steelers.
I mean, the Steelers defense, they drafting T.J. Watt and, building a nice young core. And they just got with Devin Bush. They have a nice little linebacker core there.
Right.
But it's not the Steelers defense. It's not the steel curtain. There's no
Polamalu.
Polamalu.
Right, I agree with that.
They're getting a little old. Big Ben always seems to pick up injuries.
Right.
And there's no Wi-Fi anymore. There's no
Yeah.
AB. AB's now in
Yeah.
Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
Can Juju really step up and be that number one guy?
That's the concern around Juju, right? AB had so much attention on him. There's over 200 targets available that are missing from the Steelers' offense last year. That's why a lot of people think Juju will take that next step. But with all those targets available, Moncrief, James Washington, good players, but not people that the other teams are going to worry about, right? Everything's Juju, James Conner out of the backfield. It might seem more 1-2 dimensional than the Steelers' offense used to be, where it could have been 5-6 different weapons. So I think that's part of the reason. Bengals, real quick, go under. You have them at 1 win. Are they worse or better than the Washington Redskins?
Oh, that you can't even predict that. I mean, first year coach. He's been on an NFL staff before, I guess, but he is
I
agree with that. My quick 2 cents is the Bengals have too many playmakers, especially with AJ Green, to go back to not be better than the Washington Redskins. That's about all I can say.
I think they tanked for Tua at this point.
Yeah, I might as well. Andy Dalton seems like he's going to be done there. Sorry, Bengal fans. Moving on, NFC South now. Saints, we're both extremely high on. Also, our other Super Bowl picks. Sorry to spoil it for those who are going to pause the episode for some reason or wait for the playoff, whatever. We'll get to that, obviously. Falcons and Panthers, I'm a little bit higher on than you. You have them both at 6 wins. Falcons at 8.5 via Vegas. Panthers at 8. I have both of them over. Falcons at 10-6, making the playoffs. Panthers just missing it with 9-7. I'm a huge proponent of Cam Newton this year. He's in a pattern, a trend. We talked about this. It's kind of funny. It's kind of not funny, to be honest, right? You know that this guy's going to get hurt 1 year, or 1 year you know he's going to be a top quarterback in the league. Not the top, but a top. I'm huge on him this year. McCaffrey obviously is McCaffrey. I think they haven't really had any wide receivers in a while, right? So we'll see what they make out of DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel. Greg Olsen being back might be nice if he can stay healthy. I just think this offense gets back to doing Carolina offense. Their defense is where I do have a concern. But I just feel like they might be in the mix. And if Cam has a good year, they're at least going to contend to make the playoffs.
I mean, I agree with that to an extent. I mean, I love Cam. I mean,
Yeah.
He was one of my fantasy quarterbacks last year. High on him. But he runs a lot. He does take a lot of big hits. And he's a big dude. He's like a linebacker. But that wears on you.
Of course.
When your injury that he's had over every other year has been his shoulder,
Right.
it's a little tough to stay confident that he won't go 2 years with an injury.
That's fair. I mean, and obviously every trend breaks eventually, right?
Yeah.
And no trends are for certain. But I think a big positive impact on my view of Cam is that the surgery on his shoulder he's had this offseason was just a touch-up and a cleanup. It wasn't a legitimate surgery where they had to reconstruct the shoulder. That makes a huge difference in my eyes. They said he's back to his normal mechanics. That being said, 1 bad hit to the shoulder, 1 bad fall on the shoulder, who knows? Quickly on the Falcons, I have them getting back to 10-6 in playoff relevancy. Devontae Freeman, if he stays healthy, I think Ridley is a step up from what Sanu has been. Sanu, we're going to let Nick, one of our buddies, live on Sanu. But I think they have the weapons again, finally. I think they brought in their offensive coordinator from old. Okay, he wasn't the one that was with them with the Super Bowl, but him and Matt Ryan know each other very well. They average 27 points per game while playing together. I think that's going to make them take a huge jump. I think it's a similar situation with the Panthers, where their defense is, again, the problem, but they still have some good pass rushers. They have a decent secondary. It's their linebacking core, maybe their safeties that.
Again, if they can stay healthy, though.
Of course, right.
Their secondary got
That was the
banged up
problem last year.
year.
Yep. So, again, injury concerns there. Be wary of where Vegas has them and whether you go over and under. We're kind of split there. But either way, Buccaneers, Jameis Winston, Bruce Arians,
I don't know about that one.
a no-go this year for both of us. Last but not least, actually, honestly, probably least, when it comes, at least in my opinion, to divisions, the AFC South. Texans. Wow, actually, we have the shake-up here. That's right, I forgot that you have the Jaguars where you have the Jaguars. Start with Vegas, 8.5 from the Texans, 8 for both the Jaguars and the Titans, and 7.5 for the Colts. Let's start with the Titans real quick to get them out of the way. We both agree. Way under on the Titans.
Yeah, they have a good defense, but you can't really trust Mariota whether he'll stay healthy and even if he does, he's just not. It's not college anymore.
And lack of wide receiver weapons. Obviously,
They just
I'm
traded
shaky.
Taywan Taylor.
Yeah, I'm shaky on Henry as well. They do have a very good offensive line, but if you can't stay healthy behind a good offensive line, it might be time to start over there. I don't know if it's Ryan Tannehill time, but it's time definitely to look at starting over there. Next, both of us have the Colts. You're a little higher on the Colts than I am, and we're going to get to Jacoby Brissett and Andrew Luck in a little bit. But both of us agree that they're not going to compete in this division. Or really for a wild card spot. Maybe the Colts do have made an 8. Maybe, if they win an extra game or two, could get in the wild card, but we both kind of agree that's not where they're going. The Jaguars and the Texans are where it gets really interesting for us. Texans, we are closer to agreeing on here. You have them up at 13-3, which I'm actually not upset with at all to their 8.5. I have them at 10, maybe 11. They won 11 last year. Tell me why you're so high on the Texans, though.
I mean, they're protecting Deshaun Watson with the trade for Tunsil. I get that they got rid of Clowney, but I just think Hopkins is unstoppable.
He is.
Deshaun Watson is going to have his, the guy he has his connection with, and Will Fuller back. Hopefully he can stay healthy again.
11 games, 11
Former Notre
touchdowns.
Dame guy.
Yep. Shout out ND. There you
yeah.
go. That's your squad.
They just got Kenny Stills, who is a tremendously underrated player.
I can agree with that.
I mean, just the fact that they went from the worst offensive line to trading for one of the best left tackles in the league, proven over the past few years, they're really in on, not having Deshaun Watson scramble and create these plays. They want him to stay in the pocket because he does have a really good
And it
arm.
does take 5 to tango, but defensively, obviously, trading Clowney, getting a linebacker and a rusher, trying to get more back for giving away. Obviously, they still have J.J. Watt rushing the quarterback, so I'm not too worried about their front seven. But defense overall was not tremendous last year.
Yeah.
Probably around average, in my opinion. But if they win 11 games with an average defense and a suspect offensive line, why can't they do more the next year as they upgrade? The Jaguars, though, that's where we have some fun. Jaguars, Vegas has them at 8. I have them just missing that cut at 7-9. Joe, this is your big pick. This could have been your taught if I didn't just say this right now. But you have the Jaguars at 14-2, and I know you love Nick Foles, and we're rooting for him when he won the Super Bowl. But tell us
That
why.
is just not true.
Tell us why, Giant fan, you were rooting for Nick Foles. I mean, why you have the Jaguars at 14.
Yeah, you're such a troll. My thing is, can their offense catch up to their defense? Their defense 2 years ago almost carried them to a Super Bowl.
That's true.
They were one play away from winning. And, Nick Foles, as much as I hate him on the Eagles, he's an average quarterback. And Blake Bortles is one of the bottom 5 or 6 quarterbacks last year.
Bortles, backup quarterback this year for a reason.
And if you can get to the playoffs, I mean, Nick Foles does have his magic. And unfortunately, as a Giants fan, I have to watch the Eagles win a Super Bowl.
Is everyone else here the overcompensation, or is that just me?
Yeah, but they were in the AFC title game 2 years ago. Miles Jack just signed an extension.
I did like that extension that they signed.
They just exercised their 5th-year option on Jalen Ramsey. They're going to go into contract talks with him. He's playing for either a new contract with the Jaguars or he might go somewhere else. But he's looking for, massive money for a cornerback. They addressed their offensive line and got one of the most athletic guys in Jawan Taylor. And they got him late, too. He dropped. But, opposite of Calais Campbell this year,
Right,
they're going to have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And, Josh Allen, I wanted on the Giants. I didn't think Daniel Jones would go at 6, but if Josh Allen, lives up to the hype, he was one of the-
Real quick, Daniel Jones or Blake Bortles?
Daniel Jones,
Real quick, Daniel Jones or Nick Foles?
Nick Foles.
Oh, wow. That's your favorite quarterback. All right, so no, 14-2 might be a little ambitious in my opinion. I do understand if that defense plays the way that defense did play that 2 years ago.
They only got better.
2 or 3 years ago.
2.
So it was 2 years ago. Then that certainly will make me look dumb and you smart there at the end of the year.
Like usual.
Wow. Moving on real quick. We're just going to buzz right through this as a report pops up from Adam Schefter. As Dallas gets ready to do a deal with Ezekiel Elliott, the Cowboy now in the primest position of all is Dak Prescott. Not sure what he's alluding to there. We'll have to dig into that a little bit more next week. For me, the NFC is kind of simple. This is where everyone kind of fell, as you can see on the screen. I have the Cowboys actually winning at home. Again, that was what we talked about with the Falcons defense. That's the only real reason that I could see.
Falcons aren't a good away team either.
That's, yeah. I mean, in a dome.
And Cowboys at home are still
Right.
there.
Bears and Eagles, I have the Bears making a field goal to win this one. We'll see if that actually happens or not, because that seriously might not happen. Bears and Rams, I have the Rams winning, and I have the Saints beating the Cowboys. It's kind of a similar situation to last year, except in this year, the flag's going to get thrown, and the Saints will get pushed through to the Super Bowl. Joe?
In the wild card, I had the Eagles losing to the Seahawks. The question is, can Carson Wentz stay healthy in the playoffs? Because the only certain thing you know about the Eagles
Can he
is,
even stay healthy to get to the playoffs,
is
right?
he hasn't even played a playoff game, and everyone's considering an MVP. And
Right.
I don't rate him that highly.
MVP is a regular season award, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. Obviously, that's a huge concern. Every time he drops back to pass in weeks 13 through 17, Eagles fans should definitely be scared.
I was high on both the Packers and the Bears this year, and I had them playing each other. I had them splitting during the year, and the home team winning in each game. And I think
Home team does it again in the playoffs here.
And I think the Bears they weren't missing much last year.
Right.
There was only a couple inches on a field goal. And then I have the Saints over the Seahawks. I think just that high-powered offense, Kamara, Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, even Jared Cook a little bit this year, even though I'm not crazy high on him. That defense is still great. Lattimore is going into his third year, I believe.
Yep.
And, he's starting to become one of the premier
Yeah,
cornerbacks
he's
in the
definitely
league.
one of the best corners in the league.
I just think at home they're going to be too tough to beat. But I had a little upset. I had the Bears beating the Rams in the other game, and I just think because the Bears dominated them in the regular season last year.
That was a great game.
It was a great game, but it really showed a lot
For
of
Bears fans, at least.
a lot of McVay's flaws, and that he overthinks.
Okay.
They didn't really establish the run with Gurley that game, and I was particularly upset with my fantasy team.
Was that late in the year?
That was very late in the year.
Yeah, right. That was right around when Gurley started to kind of have his knee flare up a little bit before the C.J. Anderson episode we had. Obviously, that hopefully Gurley gets back to doing what he was doing, but obviously that might have been a factor. It might have not been McVay. It might have been McVay.
I mean,
Still a lot of
McVay,
speculation
the problem
there.
I had with McVay last year was he would run a lot of play action without establishing the run. It'd be early first quarter, he's running play action, and Gurley doesn't have a carry yet.
Right.
And as a one of the top defenses in the league, they're not going to fall for that. You have to pound the offensive line or pound the defensive line, get their bodies tired, and then you can open up the game and spread the offense out.
And that really brings it to the age-old question. One of the characteristics of football, cardinal sins, right? Basketball, you have certain ones like don't jump at a pump fake, right? Stay down. Can you establish the run without actually running the ball? It's kind of an age-old question because it has worked before, but it doesn't work very often. That's a whole different conversation. Bottom line is you have the Bears kind of dominating, or at least winning, because of the domination you once saw, playing the Saints, and you have the Saints going. Tell us why.
I just think the Saints, were, again, a play away from the Super Bowl. They definitely should have been the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Right.
I thought they were a better team last year than the Rams. And I just think it's time for Drew Brees to, get his last chip and then ride off into the sunset.
That would be an interesting picture. Drew Brees definitely not a hard guy to root for. We're going to stick with you, Joe, as we flip over to the AFC here. Talk me through your bracket here real quick.
I love the Browns going into this year. High on Baker Mayfield.
Both teams, Browns and Texans, you have a 13-3 there.
Yeah, I just think the Texans are, just a little bit ahead of the Browns in their, their rebuild. Their,
Right.
Deshaun Watson, national champion. He can play under the spotlight. I think they have, better, more well-rounded team. I think the Browns are still young, and again, first-year head coach Bill O'Brien is. We all know he's a great coach. And then I have the Jaguars and the Steelers. They had an infamous game a couple years ago.
They did, yeah.
But again, I think the Jaguars at home
With that defense
with
that
that
you're
defense
talking about.
in the playoffs, and the Steelers maybe not as convincing. They snuck in there as a wild card.
9-7, you had them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a low wild card, I should say.
Yeah, and
Damn,
then,
if you had them at 9-7 getting in, the Raiders have a good shot here. I like that. Go on
I
to
want
the.
to get your hopes up.
You had them at 8-8. They win one more game. They have a shot. That's what I like to hear. Let's move over to the Patriots. There's Texans.
I just think every time the Texans go to Foxborough, they get steamrolled in Gillette, and you have to go through Tom Brady if you want to play in the Super Bowl.
That's
I
true.
don't think they're at that point. I think Tom Brady, got a couple more weapons. If Josh Gordon can stay healthy, N'Keal Harry's a physical beast. Maybe Demaryius Thomas adds a little extra physicality on the outside. They're going to have to cope with losing Gronk, but if there's anyone who can do it, it's Brady, who makes everyone around him that much better.
Well, something that's fun, and this is a quick jump ahead before we jump back to finish off our playoffs here. This is a news or noise for you real quick. Is it news or noise that on the Schefter podcast earlier today, he had Gronkowski on, and he asked Gronk, he said, what's going to happen when it's week 13, 14, 15, Brady gives you a phone call. Already made the playoffs. You know, the tough grind of the season's gone. How are you going to say no? And Gronk kind of laughed it off, but also said he couldn't say no. So is that news or noise? Is Gronk coming back this year, late in the year, or is that
I think he'll be
playing
partying
his
too
best
much.
friend? He will
He'll be
definitely. I
partying in
can
college
see
and
that.
on yachts too much.
That's probably true. All right, and then you have the Chiefs versus the Patriots. Did you talk about Chiefs Jaguars
No,
yet?
not yet. I just think the Chiefs too high-powered on offense. They did improve on defense. I don't think.
Best offense versus best defense in your opinion there?
Yeah, I just don't think that the Jaguars can score with the Chiefs in Kansas City. And I think there's a rematch of the Patriots-Chiefs. And I think this year, you know, Brady gets dethroned by the, you know,
This is the year.
gunslinger Patrick Mahomes.
It's almost a shame that the Jaguars did not beat the Chiefs there because it would have been a Nick Foles, Tom Brady
Rematch, wow.
reenactment there in the AFC. But no, I understand that. And you have the Chiefs going. I also have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Quick little look at my bracket. Browns over the Steelers. Steelers again with some worries. We're all on the Browns train. The Browns just are easy to root for. They have guys that you just want to root for. Maybe if you're a Giant fan, not Odell. But it's other than that, they have guys.
I don't have a problem with Odell at all.
And that's a very mature thing for you to say. Texans, Chargers, another team we're uncertain about. I can't see an upset in either of those two rounds, and I can't see an upset in the second round either. Browns, as much as we love them, too inexperienced to win in Foxborough. Texans, I just think too many defensive question marks for that offense. Two very good offenses there in both the Texans and Chiefs, but I don't think the Texans will be able to keep up. And I'm also on the same page. I think what happened last year, Mahomes not getting an opportunity to get the ball in that overtime as the Patriots marched down and ran it in. I think he gets his revenge here a little bit. And we both have the same Super Bowl score. I kid you not. I should say I shit you not. I'm trying to be good with my language. Listen, we literally both had 34-31 Saints. Tom Brady not in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's sad, but you know,
Drew Brees.
It is the storyline.
It's Drew Brees' turn.
It's the perfect ending. See, he's not as
Would he
crazy as
retire?
Tom Brady.
Would he retire?
So you hear all these stories. Tom Brady's, you know, actually insane. Like he'll wake up at 3 in the morning and go watch film.
Yes,
after
of
getting a glass
course.
of water.
Right.
You know, Drew Brees gives more of that family vibe, although he doesn't kiss his sons on the lips.
Well, that's pretty insane if you ask me. Okay, I don't know who's comfortable with that. I'm sorry if you are.
He's a little bit more of a normal father. His kids are getting to that age.
He's
where
a
they're
normal
start-
person is what you're
yeah,
trying to say.
They're
That's
starting
fair.
to
That's
play.
fair.
His kids are starting to play football. You know, he wants to be involved in their lives. I think 2 Super Bowls is enough for him. He'll be. He's already the touchdown leader, passing yards leader. It's just the perfect storybook ending.
Unless he doesn't retire. But yeah, I agree. I think Drew Brees is another one of those guys, like we talked about with the Browns, easy to root for. Good guy, a really beautiful wife. I shouldn't have said that, but that's fine. Drew Brees, if you're listening, it's a compliment.
And Mrs. Breeze,
This is if you're also listening, yeah, my number is, you could just DM me or email me off the website. Listen, that's pretty much it. We're going to, real quick before we move on to news or noise, we talked a lot about Vegas, just kind of mixed it in here with our normal conversation. For those out there wondering, give me an obvious over and an obvious under that they may have missed.
From my opinion, I think the Jags are the obvious over. I think their defense only got better.
And Jags are at what? An 8, right?
Yeah, and their offense got better because they have a quarterback who can, you know, complete a pass.
Right. What about an obvious under?
I would say probably the Bengals. I mean, first-year head coach, injury to A.J. Green. Andy Dalton doesn't look, you know, too great. They just lost their middle linebacker captain in Vontaze Perfect.
Right.
Can't really see them getting more than
Some
5 or 6
injuries,
wins in that
yeah.
division. And
Yeah. No, I can agree with
it'll be a
that
rough
one.
year for the Bengals.
You gave them 1 win, so I totally get that one. My obvious over, even though I only have them at 10 wins, I think they could easily get more than 10 wins, is the Houston Texans. To me, this is Vegas' fault for putting them at 8.5 wins. I think they won 11 wins with the worst team last year. I think you got to go over there. Obvious under, I'm staying in division and I'm going Tennessee. 8 wins is way too high. I know they were actually close to being a playoff team last year, right? I mean, they fell short to the Colts in Week 17. I just don't see it with their personnel in general. I have them at 5 wins. I think even if they were at 6, I probably would tell you to go under. Definitely an under to consider. All right, now we're going to play a little game real quick called News or Noise.
Oh, I can't believe it.
Well, that's news to me.
So, it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to ask you a question, or I'm going to read you a headline, and it's going to be whether that's news, something that, wow, that actually changes things, or that's just noise. It's not going to make a difference. Got a couple good topics here. Let's start off with your favorite running back, Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, man.
I know he's not your favorite running back. I've just been trolling you all night with that. Ezekiel Elliott returning from Cabo today. Apparently, deal's getting close. Deal's getting close. Everyone's tweeting, oh, I heard the deal's getting close. Oh, now we're making improvements on the deal. Per source. Obviously, everyone's just referring to Adam Schefter's tweet. Bottom line is Zeke's returning from Cabo. Is that news or is it noise?
That's news. I mean, as if you were a Cowboys fan or even, someone playing the Cowboys in the first few weeks, you're looking at them, and I thought the Giants can steal a win this weekend without Zeke. But with Zeke, I don't know. It's, you put one of the best.
How do you say that as a Giant fan? You're going to win anyways. Confidence. I do agree. I think it's news. I think, his agent came out and said, this makes us look serious, right? I mean, you don't take a flight, even though money's about to be literally nothing to him on a flight. But you don't take a flight back from especially a place like Cabo without showing that you're willing to get back to it, get ready to work, that you're looking for a solution. I think it's news. I hate that it's news because I have Tony Pollard on my fantasy team, and I was hoping that he could give me some quality reassurance as Melvin Gordon sits out, which is going to bring us to our next news or noise. Now, MG3 was told by the Chargers, our talks are done. To me, that's news. We don't have to consider that news or noise. The question comes, they told him he's allowed to seek a trade, and Melvin Gordon goes and follows 4 teams on Instagram. You were the one that told me that, right? You broke that news to me. What were the teams? It was the 49ers, the Raiders,
the Falcons,
and the Eagles,
yes.
Right? Is that news or is that noise?
I think the 4 teams is noise, but I heard today that there's one team
particularly
that they're talking to, and maybe throw in a first-round pick and exchange running backs.
Right.
You don't know what the GMs are talking about, but it's very likely that Melvin Gordon, if he's going to play on the field, he's not going to be in a Chargers uniform this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely done as a Charger unless they can't find a trade, and he has to be back by week 10 for the year to count. I mean, running backs in general, you think about Zeke, you think about MJ3, you think about Le'Veon Bell, think about all these guys.
Don't forget Saquon.
Well, I'm talking about guys that have held out. That's what I'm talking about. The guys that held out, 2 this year, 1 last year, it's because they got kind of screwed in the collective bargaining agreement, right? You have those 4 years. That 5th year is actually a team option. A running back's lifespan in the NFL, on average, is 2.5 years. Not very high. Obviously, if you do make it this far, you are a big deal. You deserve big money. But to sit out, obviously, is annoying to fans all around the league. I don't think it is news. I think it might be noise, but hopefully, he can find a good place to play because football is more fun when guys like Zeke and Le'Veon and Saquon and MG3, when those guys are running the ball, the game is more fun to watch for sure. Next up, LaShawn McCoy, cut from the Bills, only 12 hours later to be signed by the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid was talking about before that using the running backs on the Chiefs as a committee. Now LaShawn McCoy comes in, a couple comments maybe made. He's very smart. He'll pick up the offense fast. They're both considered starters, whatever that means. What do you make of this? Is this news or is this noise when it comes to the Kansas City Chief running back situation?
I think this is news, although I don't want it to be.
Okay.
I think Damian Williams had a great, end of the season last year. They drafted Darwin Thompson. There was a lot of noise around him in preseason.
A lot of good preseason talk.
Played pretty well. And then, they go and sign Andy Reid's former running back, and he could play a part in that offense, and he still has unbelievable cuts, and his juke is almost second to none.
Vision, yeah.
He's one of the better running backs of the 2010s, I would say. But it will be interesting to see if he can stay healthy, and two, how he fits into that offense.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting. I think something that only a few coaches have done recently, at least, and only a few offenses have shown me, is that there's only a few people, like we mentioned, the 49ers, where just anybody was thrown in there and they were all of a sudden made relevant. I think Andy Reid has that type of offense and that type of situation as running back, where anybody whoever is the guy is going to be relevant. And if he wants to do a committee, fine, it'll be Andy Reid's first committee. But at the end of the day, having anybody that can be plugged in, they will be productive. Maybe they'll both be productive.
They
but
really have that next man up kind of mentality.
Exactly.
Spencer Ware came in last year, did
Yeah,
a job.
right.
Damian Williams
Williams,
did a job.
anybody can come into this offense and make some noise in a good way. That means that is news. I agree there. But we'll move on real quick. They traded Carlos Hyde. That was to the Texans. The Texans also go ahead and make another move, trading Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney going to the Seahawks for a third rounder and 2 players, I believe, right? Was there one more pick in there?
I'm not sure if there was another pick, but I think it was like 2 linebackers or something.
It was a linebacker and a pass rusher, and it might have been 2 picks. The bottom line is, Jadeveon Clowney, the Seahawks, news or noise? Is that defense going to be legit?
I think that's news.
News for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, it's very good news for the Seahawks.
100%.
I mean, Frank Clark played unbelievably last year, and he's
Right.
a good, talented young player. But when you can upgrade in his position to a Jadeveon Clowney after losing Frank Clark, there's a lot to be excited about in Seattle.
So is it news or noise now for the Texans side of the ball, right? They give up, all they get back is a third and 2 players. I mean, Jadavius Mingo was a linebacker. I know Bill Ryan was very high on him. I did not recognize the other name, so I'm not sure how high on him or what impact he's going to have. I just want to kind of point out, as a Raider fan, John Gruden getting 2 first-rounders and more back for Khalil Mack versus Jadeveon Clowney, who was drafted before Khalil Mack, for 2 players and a third-rounder. Does this make it news or noise that the Texans got better with this trade?
I mean, I can argue both ways. I mean,
Okay.
I think as their future prospects, they didn't really get better. And especially since they made that trade for Tunsil and they gave up 2 first-round picks.
Right.
And they didn't get one in return from Seattle.
Right.
But, they do look really good, and we're both very high on them this year. It's hard to, fight against them. And
Right. I mean, regardless, we think the Texans have a good outcome this year.
Yeah, Mingo was good a couple of years ago. He's good coming out of LSU.
Yep.
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
That'll be an interesting one to watch. I'm sure. Do they play each other this year? I forget.
I don't think so.
Looked at too many games, obviously, to remember.
Yeah.
The next time they do play each other, it'll be interesting to see how Clowney does play. But we'll move on here. Next 2 storylines are kind of older storylines, just something as we wrap up this season preview, right? We just want to talk about everything preseason. We'll start with Andrew Luck, obviously making the bold and courageous decision to step away from football at such a young age. Obviously, a lot of problems. Gronk came out talking about some mental health issues. Obviously, it is no joke. That leaves Jacoby Brissett as their starting quarterback. Jacoby Brissett just received a 2-year, $30 million extension, which would put him at the next 3 years, $20 of that million guaranteed. And then they go out and sign Brian Hoyer for 3 years, 2 ex-Patriots backups. Is this the fact that Jacoby Brissett in the next 3 years, or Brian Hoyer, whoever it ends up being, can lead the Colts back to the playoffs and back to a possible Super Bowl? Is that news or is that noise?
I think that's news. I mean, their defense was great last year. They had one of the best, if not the best, offensive line, with even rookies in that offensive line last year that protected Andrew Luck, and you saw what he did. And he's talented, and Brissett came in and did a job for the Patriots and then moved on to the Colts. It'll be interesting to see his connection with T.Y. Hilton, because T.Y. doesn't have that, he's running a route and Luck's going to put it where he wants it.
Of course.
They have to build that chemistry.
Took years for that to
But
happen.
all I can say is
Takes
when
years for
Brissett
anybody.
played in 2017, him and Jack Doyle had a real nice connection.
That's an absolute truth. Now, Eric Ebron was not on that team at the time, but Jack Doyle's target share was around 22-23%. The interesting fact for that, you mentioned T.Y. Hilton. Back in 2017, T.Y. Hilton's target share was 23%. T.Y. Hilton's target share with Andrew Luck was 23%. So T.Y. Hilton's target share never changed, but the amount that they connected on did a little bit. Obviously,
and you get the ball to him.
Obviously, hopefully that'll change as Brissett has had a whole preseason to work with T.Y. Obviously, he wasn't expected to be the starter, but they have been practicing together on first string reps, so we'll see what happens. I personally think it is noise. I don't think Jacoby Brissett has what it takes to be a Super Bowl winner, a playoff player. If anything, it would have to be that defense that gets them in. But I personally think that extension, that amount of money, is a little bit of noise there. Antonio Brown, his helmet saga, helmet gate is officially over. He's getting endorsement money. We don't know which one he's picked yet. Maybe that'll be on Hard Knocks tonight. News or noise that Antonio Brown is going to get endorsement money and he's going to have a helmet and he's going to be fine and he's going to be great.
I mean, that's got to be news. I don't see someone making up that story and him not getting paid for it. He's a premier player in the league.
Right, that's definitely a fact.
I mean, if you're a helmet manufacturer, why would you not want
That's a great point.
Antonio Brown to be
Yeah.
wearing your helmet?
Then everyone will want to wear your helmets.
Yeah.
If Antonio will wear it, then anybody should wear it.
And he's picky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Antonio Brown, he's been making comments about how it's harder to see out of his peripherals. He doesn't want to endanger himself. I personally think a lot of it had to do with his feet. He didn't want to practice and this and that. But hey, listen, the saga is over. I think it's news. I think he's fine, ready to roll. I think him and Derek Carr are going to be on a great page because they seem like they love each other, which he didn't seem like him and Big Ben loved each other after his radio comments.
No. But
that's just a thing right
even
there.
AB and Derek Carr's kids are playing catch.
Oh yeah, that's the next generation of Oakland Raiders. We're good for the next 30 years. Last but not least, news or noise, Hunt. We talked about how we were going to talk about Kareem Hunt later, and kicker, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Kareem Hunt coming back in Week 10, but he just had surgery. Is that news or noise? Is he going to be himself? Is he going to get touches? Where does the surgery place your thoughts on Kareem Hunt?
I think he'll be all right. It was just a hernia surgery. It was,
Right.
that's pretty standard nowadays. Probably just clean up. He'll be fine. Well before Week 10 when he's eligible to come back, and he's got all this rest, and Chubb's gonna take a brunt of the work, and then you come back and you got two stud running backs
Yeah, no, I mean definitely.
in a really open offense.
Definitely good weapons to use. I think my question for you then would be, let's say the Browns are winning. They're by Week 10, 8-1. They're dominating. Chubb's already at 1,000 yards. He's having a massive year. This is all obviously hypothetical. Do you take run plays, carries, passes, touches in general? Do you take that away from a guy that's going so well to give to a guy like Kareem Hunt who would have been out of football for 10 weeks? Or does that not matter?
Well, it definitely matters, and especially since they lost the appeal that Kareem Hunt can't be in and around the team.
Right.
He knows the plays, but there's timing and stuff that you have to get in with your offensive line. I think they work him in more like a Duke Johnson role.
Okay.
Where Duke Johnson was the third down back and
Right.
would catch passes, maybe with short runs, and
Okay. I
they
can see
kind of
that.
just slowly integrate him into the offense. But
Right.
you can't really, if Chubb is dominating, you don't really take a player like that out.
I completely agree with that. That pretty much brings us to the end for News or Noise. Our last segment here, as we're running a little long, is our tots.
That thing hot, daddy. Boy, get your ass out the damn oven. Hot. Get your ass out the oven before I cut it on.
Our tots is just our toaster oven takes, a take that is so ridiculously hot. Not out of the realm of possibilities, but something that definitely probably won't happen. Joe, we'll start with you. Give me a tater tot that you will eat up all season.
I guess my take would be that if Daniel Jones plays for the Giants would get more wins with Eli Manning as quarterback. I just think there's too much pressure on Daniel Jones. I think they're doing the same thing they did to Kerry Collins when Eli was coming in. And, on third downs in preseason against second and third string guys, you run the ball with Eli, but you throw, little out routes and nice little, combination routes for Daniel Jones and make him look better than he is. And you kind of you force him in and see if he can, handle the New York pressure.
Force him in. Ooh.
And I don't think that's I don't think that's the way that I would like to see Daniel Jones, take over from Eli Manning. I want to see Eli have a great year and, kind of have one of his better years, especially after the last 7, and just end on a good note, especially with the fans.
Yeah, and that's a good tot right there. Obviously, we'd have to watch out, if Daniel Jones even plays or not. For me, I've been trying to not go with the Raider tot. I'm gonna end up going with my team. You went with your team. I'm looking at a couple other teams that there is some good predictions I have, but at the end of the day, Derek Carr will be in the MVP race, and the Oakland Raiders will make the playoffs. That's a tie. The Oakland Raiders might even win a game in the playoffs. I'm thinking this team comes out of nowhere, same efficiency, same type of offensive ability, just with better players from 2016. That's my tot. I'm biased. Joe's biased. Let's be honest, we're biased when it comes to the Raiders and Giants. The rest of the league, not so much. You have a pretty good eye for that stuff. But at the end of the day, those are our tots. If it happens, all of you right now owe us 10 push-ups or something. Screw you guys for laughing. I know you're laughing right now. That's happening.
You want them to get off the couch? I mean, we're advertising
That's true. Yeah, this is a comfortable couch, but that's the punishment. That's what you get for laughing at us. The Oakland Raiders playoff team. You heard it here first. Hey, good session. Probably longer than we thought it would go.
Yeah, but it was the previews and stuff.
Of course, we did have to hit every team. Most podcasts split this up. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. It will be a little different, probably more on the entertainment side than the knowledge side. Upcoming. Had some good notes in there, good comments. But at the end of the day, what do we know? We're just some regular dudes. This is what we do. We talk sports all the time, as I'm sure you guys do. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Later.
Having all of this paper on me, I just hope that you're praying for me.
I can tell you what happened. The streets turned me into a savage. I started off jugging and trapping. Watched a couple of niggas get blasted. Way too much blood for a napkin. Don't nobody tell you what happened. I'm good when you see me in traffic. Automatic in the Benz 4matic. In the S550 I'm speeding. Nigga, you wouldn't believe it. I came up from nothing, I mean it. Now I'm living everything I was dreaming. I'm killing, I feel like I'm cheating. They kept on giving me reasons. Can't nobody get in between. It's only us, I put that on everything. Fuck it off now. My nigga, it's just us now. Every rollie getting bust down. Y'all niggas reppin' off town. I was down, but I'm off now. Fuck around with no fuck rounds. Ain't no pounds, oh it's off now. Pretty bitches hit me up now. I'm not a regular person. 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 I'm not a regular person.